is also UNESCO chair professor in Greece, anthropologist, and who will remind us again, I'm sorry, but it's important, for the last time over those 3 days, of the really important spiritual dimension. We are moving again back from the institutional to the spiritual. And not only the spiritual, actually, but something that is, how can I say it, that is linked to the essence of our work of re-enchanting. Let's go back to the title of our symposium. We called it re-enchanting. And obviously, one way of re-enchanting is moving from separation to integration. Pavlos.
Thank you, Alexandra. Thanks a lot for the invitation. Thank you all for being here. Enchantment. How can we define enchantment in a meaningful way? Enchantment is magic, but all enchantment is not magic. There are differences in the ways we approach enchantment. Here is an example, one of my favorite ones, coming from The Tempest by William Shakespeare. In the last act of the play, Prospero, which is an allusion to Prosperous, this is the time that the New World has been discovered, and this is the advent of the historical condition of Western modernity. Let us remember this observation for what comes later. So Prospero says in his Exodus, in the final monologue, now that justice has been administered and order has been restored, I, Prospero, stand before you naked. I renounce myself as a sorcerer without any magical art anymore. I seek your mercy, and addresses this talk not to the audience, but through the audience to the unknown other that is present in the play. Enchantment is coupled with awe. Awe is a very complex word because it means respect, deep respect for the other, but also means dread, fear for the unknown. We know this feeling from the Greek tragedies. The father of tragedy, Aeschylus, true son of this land, his name points to the importance of awe as an instance of enchantment. The first part of his word is eschini. The Greek word means respect and also means shame, depending on the context and the usage of the word. So, eschini is coupled with reverence for what is out there, that a human soul with his or her reasoning cannot grasp, cannot deal with this. Aeschylus and the tragedians might be a great historical bridge to understand what was going on here in the land of mysteries. So, as a response to your question, Alexandra, I would say that enchantment brings awe, and the magic of such an enchanting attitude towards the world is a necessary reality that we have to somehow awaken within us.
I would like to ask you, because you are an anthropologist and you are also in charge of sub-Saharan Africa, and we heard from Phil this sort of tour du monde that he showed us. And maybe you have noticed in our little trailer of the World Human Forum for what we have in common. And this is something that we are very concerned about at the World Human Forum. What can we learn from ancient Greek traditions that we do have in common with other traditional civilizations and value systems?
Right, thank you. Yes, anthropology is about cultures, worldwide and in a diachronic spectrum perspective. So what we anthropologists have observed by studying other cultures is that there is no culture that has omitted to deal in a great depth with the perennial question: who are we? Where do we come from? Where do we go? How do we manage our daily life in the context of great time? The time that preceded us, the time that comes after our presence on the planet. They devised the rituals, they devised the ceremonies and rites of all kinds to deal with the trouble of their soul. And in this context, shamanism appeared first among mostly the nomadic people, and later on with the hierarchical organization of society, especially following the agricultural revolution. And this is something again to be noted, because the cult here is based on an emphasis on agriculture and the contact with earth, with the domestication of plants and what comes with it. So everywhere people have dealt with life and death by inserting an in-between ritual phase. Phil touched on that with Van Gennep's rites of passage. Victor Turner, a famous anthropologist, talked about liminality. Liminality is the space, the experiential space, is the what comes between one state of being and a new state of being. The old state of being and the state of being that comes after initiation. So what do we share? Eleusis shares with the rest of the world. It shares this symbiotic spirit with nature and a sense of communality, addressing the importance of living together, working together, and struggling together for something that is beyond our reach.
Symbiosis, a beautiful Greek word that I hear more and more coming from the ecological community, for sure, very important. I think you and I agree that what we are looking for is not of some type of revival of ancient modes of life, because obviously we are 8 billion today and there's no way we can go back. But the thing is, from what we call the ancestral intelligence of our pasts at all levels, even further than symbiosis, what is it we can learn, you think, today, and that again we had in common, and we have to recognize that we have in common with so many other cultures around the world?
Right. There is a distinction to be made here. The Greek words anaviosi and symbiosi, they make a beautiful pair of a poetic way of making the distinction. Now, the closest translation I can make is living with, for symbiosis, and living again, yes, for anaviosis, the revival. The living again, from an anthropological and personal perspective, is impossible. We cannot relive Elefsina and the mysteries as they have existed. There are many reasons why not. But living again in the sense of living with, yes, there's a point there. But in order to proceed with a living together through Elefsina and what has bestowed on us as heritage, as cultural heritage, as intangible and tangible cultural heritage, is a big question. And in order to answer it, we have to get deeper into the perspective of dealing with inner development. As you rightly said, Alexandra, and Irini mentioned it before, and the cube, and we can come to this. You were smart enough to make a bridge in your tarot cards, the Delphic cube, and move from the 17 SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals of the UN, naming the 18th as the missing link. What is missing? And then giving another 4 to the obvious agencies that have to play a significant role in the re-enchantment of the world, namely the role of the individual, the NGOs, corporate, and government. But this missing link, the missing thing, what is it? Inner development. We have to talk a bit more about inner development, which I think will conclude my view of how I see the re-enchantment of the world, if you allow me.
You know, the problem for me today is that there is a real mix-up between religion, spirituality, spiritual movements that are non-religious, the shortcomings of organized religious movements that, you know, make many people stay away, and the need for some, you know, spiritual dimension that I don't know how to call, actually. I'm looking for the right word. Maybe I should look also over there and over there. Somebody can help. But I think too many of us today are sort of staying away from the spiritual element because of the problems and the radicality of many religions that, instead of bringing us together, are separating us. And I believe that Elefsina can be a place. I mean, tonight, for those of you who are going to join us, it's going to be a very special evening, because we have turning dervishes from Turkey, singing with a choir, a Byzantine choir, in an ancient Greek site. And this element, this symbiosis also of all those diverse elements, is something that I think we can aim for this site, but for that we need to get away from the danger of being qualified as, you know, neo-religion, this or that. And I wanted to hear from you how you think that we can do that without running the risk of being misunderstood. Because it's not being against any, I mean, I respect all religions and people who are faithful to their religions, and it's not the problem. The problem is there a space, is there a possibility for another expression of this inner transformation, spiritual transformation that has nothing to do with organized religions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
It took me many years to come to a position to phrase, I think in a few words, what spirituality could be, a heuristic definition that could serve us all. For me, spirituality has to do with consciousness. I'll get into that in a minute. It has to do with two things: recognizing and definitely transcending ego consciousness, our sense, illusory sense of being. The pairs of subject and object that always accompany our emotions, our rationality, our whatever we do as human beings. These illusory moments of creating aspects of ourselves need to be renounced. This Prospero guy taught us well what to do and how to express awe before the presence of the unknown other. So where does it come from? I'm right now, as you know, Alexandra, writing a book for Cambridge University Press titled Resonant Being, Homo sapiens sapiens and the Sacred Sound of Consciousness. Why Homo sapiens sapiens? He is our ancestor, our father, mother, our ancestor. At least 40,000 years ago, the species appeared on Earth. Double sapiens is doubly wise species. Why? It has the capacity to think over thinking, to feel over feeling. Such a application of consciousness brings choice. Unfortunately, choice can lead one way to the proliferation of ego through sharing itself and its goodies, or lead us to a more critical moments of awareness whereby we can transcend, after recognizing, of course, the ego profile. This is our destiny. This is our biological, genetic constitution. All cultures, mostly the so-called primitive cultures, the nomadic cultures that were closer to the Mother Earth and spirits, so they were able to express this reality that they inherited from the ancestral spirit. So I would say that unless we experience this inner awakening, we will always be lacking a fundamental quality that is part of our genetic and cultural constitution. So it's one thing to respect nature, ecological movements. It's another important thing to be communal and engage in communality of all kinds. But we have to look further into the awakening of our inner potential. Without it, we'll have no compass coming from within, no real center to cope with the unexpected.
Pavlos, thank you. I cannot resist saying that 2 years ago we came to Elefsina, invited by our friends, I said it 2 days ago, who were interested in the revival of the psychedelic substances movements. And I have never tried it, but the one thing that seduced me tremendously was this idea of consciousness elevation, ego dissolution, communion with something bigger than ourselves, cosmos, nature, the others, call it as you want. And I just love the fact that you finish with those words, because it brings me back exactly where we started. And I think this conversation in circles and in circles and in circles has to continue here. So thank you very much. Thank you, all of you.
Very welcome.